You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock and it's the Beer O'Clock Show. My name's Mark, and joining me, as always, is my beery buddy Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi Mark, how you doing?
Alright, mate, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good. This week we're drinking a collaboration beer between Cloudwater and Kees Brewery. It's the Custard Porter, an 8.5% porter, which we're both terribly excited about. But before we get to that, mate, what have you been drinking? Because I've had fuck all.
Oh, mate, I've had a ridiculously beery week. I've got to try and just literally whittle it down to 2 or 3 beers because I've had a bit of a beery adventure this week. I found myself at the Magic Rock tap room again for the evening because I was in Leeds with work and I thought, I don't want to spend another evening in Leeds. Where should I take myself? So I went over to Magic Rock, happened to arrive on the day that they had released Highwire in cans, and therefore binged a little bit. Yes. How very coincidental as well. I had a pint. First drink I had was a pint of Highwire on cask, and it was absolutely stunning. I have really missed the original version of Highwire, and I really enjoyed the cask version of it. So that was one of my highlights of the week. The other ones were one of the Buxton Belgian beers that they've produced. This was their Anglo-Belgique IPA. Absolutely stunning. Knocked my socks off on Saturday evening, this beer did. Almost a perfect mix between the sweet sort of Belgian-y beer and then a full-on really hoppy IPA. Just balanced out really well. And then finally a beer that a lot of people have been speaking about over the last couple of weeks, the Beavertown Espresso. The Imperial Espresso Stout in the can. Again, absolutely stunning. Just like drinking a cup of cold coffee. Absolutely stunning. So they were the 3 real standouts for me this week on what's been a fairly boozy week.
Very good. I saw a comment on Twitter, I think, either in reply to your tweet about drinking the espresso, or you quoted it as being Beavertown's best beer. What do you think about that?
That was what Rob Derbyshire said when he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He said he thought it was their best beer that they've ever produced. Maybe the best beer that has been available in a can so far. Okay. I've had the barrel-aged version of the espresso, and it was even better than the version that they've just put into the cans. It's quite a bold statement to claim that a single beer that a brewery does is the best they've ever done, because I think obviously things change, but it's decent enough beer, and there seems to be a lot of it around. So if you do see it, make sure you pick it up and give it a go.
Yeah, is it just me, or is Beavertown really leaning towards the heavy dark beers in the last 6 months or so? They seem to keep putting out different variations of styles.
I think they are, but I think it's seasonal as well. So I think it's part of the seasonality they do with their specials.
Yeah, I know they've got the blood orange beer coming back out, if it's not out already, because they tweeted that a couple of weeks ago, didn't they?
Yeah, that's due. That's kind of their spring seasonal.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are.
So have you got any news for us, mate?
Of course, mate. Tons of it.
All right, here's your pips. Beep, 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 beep.
Okay, so we're going to start off with some beer festival news. The Craft Beer Co. 100 Beer Festival returns over the Easter Bank holiday weekend from the 24th to the 28th of March. At the Craft Beer Co. in Clapham, there will be over 100 beers available for people to sample, and much to everybody's relief, they have also recently announced that they'll be serving in thirds for the first time as well, previously only selling in pints and halves. So have a look out for that. Craft Beer Co. thecraftbeerco.com for more information. More event news. This is the Manchester Beer Week, who we're going to be featuring in a couple of weeks. We're pleased to announce a title sponsor for the Manchester Beer Week that's coming up in June. That is JW Lee's Brewery are sponsoring the whole event, and the sponsorship will help to fund various events and will help the organisers to promote it as a major festival for beer lovers. The Beer Week actually takes place between the 10th and the 19th of June, and we are going to have Conor Murphy on the show in a few weeks' time to talk to us about the Manchester Beer Week and to review a couple of JW Lee's beers as well. But for more information on that, you can go to mcrbeerweek.co.uk. New beer news. Hogsback are launching beer that we've featured before. Remember, we featured the Hogstar Lager quite a while back. Unsurprisingly, like most other breweries, that's now available in cans. So keep your eye out for that one if you want to give it a go in cans. Another brewery releasing some new beers, Box Steam Brewery, have released some new seasonals, including a limited edition ale that celebrates their 10th birthday, called Full Steam Ahead. It's a 10% oak-aged, robust and distinctive barley wine. So have a look, keep your eye out for that. There's only 1,400 bottles of it in existence, so if it's the sort of thing that you fancy, check it out at boxsteambrewery.com. Venue news, I don't know if you saw this in the week, mate, but you know the Euston Tap. Mm-hmm. We all know the Euston Tap. We all love the Euston Tap. Wow. It's it's getting a bit of a refurb. And anyway, they're cleaning it up a little bit, and hopefully by the sounds of things, they're going to sort the toilets out as well. Anyway, across the road, there's the Cider Tap. Yes. That's closing down, and it's reopening as the Northern Tap, which is going to stock exclusively northern beers.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. That should be happening within the next few months, so keep your eye out for that. And it's happening at the same time as they also announced a new premises called the Waterloo Tap, which will be opening up shortly as well. So lots of tap news there in London. And then finally, this week's news. People will be pleased to know that if you are in London, you can now buy tickets for our next live podcast at Hot Burns and Black on the 14th of April. We will be featuring in an event which we have called Go West. We will be featuring beers from Bristol, including beers from Moore, Wiper and True and Arbor. Tickets are £10 each, and the ticket gives you tasters of all the beers we'll be doing, an opportunity to appear live on the podcast, and also 10% off store all evening. You can click through on the link in tonight's show notes to take you to tickets. Tickets are fairly limited, so if you want to be part of the audience for our next live show, make sure you get in quickly.
Hooray! Right, let's get to this week's beer, buddy.
Let's do this. I'm excited about this beer.
From Cloudwater, who are up in Manchester.
They are indeed.
And the Brouwerij Kees, who are from the Netherlands. This is Custard Porter, 8.5%. I hope it tastes like custard.
So do I. Because I've been keeping it for so long.
It doesn't look like custard.
It doesn't look like it, but there is a almost instant vanilla-y hit coming off of it. There we go.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, it's welling up now. That smells nice.
Oh, it does. And literally, I don't know if this is a case of the senses are playing tricks on one another. But that does smell like custard. It
smells a little bit like custard, yeah.
Yeah, there's that hint of vanilla that you get off of custard. It's a lovely dark beer. I've got a good 2 fingers worth of head on this as well. Slightly off white, nice foamy head.
Yeah.
I'm excited. This is my excited face, listeners.
Well, mine's a little bit cold, so I'm not getting huge amounts of aromas from it yet, but I am getting that creamy vanilla aroma. It's off the top, but with a boozy undertones to it.
Oh, very much so.
So, enough talking, mate. Let's get into it.
Cheers.
Ooh. That's got its ABV pinned firmly to its shirt.
Yep. But It is ridiculously smooth. From the first kind of mouth full through the second and third gulp, right across to the finish, there's just smoothness. Slight bitterness on the finish, but nothing major.
Kind of like a burnt bitterness, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's good call on that one. It's very
I'm
well
learning.
done. You are. I mean, yeah, that's just like you say, it's not hiding its ABV.
No.
Straight away, you're getting the feel that that's a big beer. 8.5%, you'd expect that. In terms of the porter side of things, I wouldn't say it's exactly a classic porter style. It's maybe a little bit easy. There's not a lot of roasted flavours coming off of it. It's got a very smooth finish to it. In terms of the claim of the custard porter, yeah, there's some vanilla in there. There's that toasted finish that you talk about, maybe that slight burnt finish. All balancing together really, really well.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of burnt toast, slightly bitter at the end. Not terribly sticky, which is a nice change from some porters. No smokiness though, and I said last week I love a bit of smoke on a porter.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting any of that smooth vanilla flavours coming through there so present in the aromas, which is a shame.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. You do get more of it on the aroma. That
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's there on the flavour, but it's only very, very subtle.
But saying that, if it was as sweet as the aroma suggests, when you're drinking it at that ABV, it might be a bit sickly. It might be like you're drinking really thick alcoholic custard, which you wouldn't want too much of.
No, I think I agree. It might be a bit sticky, a bit cloying. It's incredibly well balanced. It's incredibly flavoursome. There's a lot going on in there. It's got a really strong malt backbone, and if I had to say anything, it's probably more custard cream than it is custard porter. It's those sort of characteristics that I'm getting off of it. It's a really enjoyable beer. It's really unfortunate that there's not too much of this around now, because this was part of the I think it was part of the winter range that Cloudwater put out, being kind of a part of their collaboration brews that they do. And sadly, it all went fairly quickly. I mean, I managed to snaffle a couple of bottles because I wanted to do it on the show. But I'm really enjoying this. I mean, I'm glad we've got it. Because the flavours are just, they're incredible.
What I'm liking is around the very edges of the palate, there's a residual heat after the bitterness wears away. And you're left with a slight filminess on the palate, but just around the sides of my tongue, like the very extremities, is this residual heat, which is really nice. I don't know if they've put any chilies or anything in there, or if it's just a result of the hops. But it's quite nice. It helps kind of ease back from that ABV, from the heaviness of it when you're drinking it, the strength.
Yeah, again, another good shout on the warmth that it leaves in the mouth. It's it does have the feel like it's almost been barrel aged to it. You're getting that off of you're getting that big booziness off of the whichever barrel it's been aged in. But this hasn't. This is just straight up brewing. Use of the pearl hop for bittering, for aroma, Willamette and Sriracha Ace. So all those different hops are working together here to create something truly astonishing on the finish.
Yeah, it's quite complex, really. For a porter is generally often quite a simple style, but they have like some different layers working with each other on this.
Yeah.
Again, I would prefer it if it was a little lighter on the alcoholicness of it. Despite being a porter, I still like my porter to be a little bit not so punchy in the mouth with the ABV. But the way they twine those flavours together towards the end, and that what you're left with after you've put the glass down, just keeps you tasting it. It's really nice.
It is, and another good beer this season, mate. This one,
Oh.
this is up there. I mean, I've got to say, I've not had too much from the Kees brewery. I know you mentioned them on last week's show. I think you had a Citra Pale Ale from them,
which was
that you really enjoyed.
brilliant. Yeah.
They did a collab with Magic Rock at Christmas as well, simply called Brewed with Friends #1, and it was a Belgian quad, and it was absolutely stunning to the point where I went and sought out more bottles to put into the cellar to age for a bit, because it was just stunning. So they seem to do a very good job of collabs with British breweries, and from what you were saying, obviously they're pretty good on their own as well.
Yeah, I mean, that pale ale that I had last week was just, if you love Citra, hunt that beer down, because you pure flavours. And, we've had Cloudwater beers before, and we know the attention to detail they put into
Absolutely, yeah.
Oftentimes quite simple beers. And, here they're working together with, by the name you would think it'd be rather complex, a custard porter. You're expecting, I think we've had a creme brulee style beer before with us on the show, or we just tasted it somewhere. And, there was a danger that I thought this would be one of those sickly sweet, trying to be too much beers, but it turns out that, again, it's a simple approach to, you could almost call it a dessert beer without it being sicky.
I think so. If I had more of this would definitely be the end of an evening beer for me. It would be something that I would want to finish the evening with, because of the flavours that are in there and because of the way that it works in your mouth.
Yeah, match this with some strong cheese and you're laughing.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. lots of visuals going on tonight, but clearly for our listeners at home, you can't see any of this. Just imagine the worst beer sex face you could possibly picture, and that's what's going on here right now.
Yeah. Instagram of the week, mate. Do we have one?
Of course, yes. Good competition this week. Lots of people getting really into it. So thanks to everyone for putting your images up on Instagram. All wanting the highly sought after, great big empty box of nothing. The prize, this prize. So this week, the Instagram of the week goes to, and I think this might be a first actually. This isn't a case of somebody winning 2 weeks in a row, but this is the case of the same beer winning 2 weeks in a row. So last week's picture was from Pete McCary. It was a can of Beavertown Espresso, which we were talking about earlier. This week's picture is from Gregor_J. And again, it's another Beavertown Espresso, just looking really good on that lake. That was at Centre Parks. That's an incredible picture.
Wow.
And you know what? Extra points as well. The guy, if you look through his feed all week, he clearly went to Centre Parks for the week and took a load of his own beer. It sounded like he was having a great time. So congratulations, Gregor J. You are this week's prize winner, and that great big box of nothing will be heading its way to you as soon as I can find a stamp to put on it. If you want to have a go at entering the prize, put your picture on Instagram, use the hashtag Cheers Guys, and if it's the one that catches my eye, you will be getting a mention on next week's show.
Just remember that stamp has more value than the box or its contents.
Absolutely, it's the most sought after thing. Yes.
Until it's voided by Royal Mail.
Yeah.
Do we have a hot topic, buddy?
We do, mate. Now, this week, because we've got a big interview coming up at the end of tonight's show, we've got a long interview with Matt from BeerBods where I ask him a load of listener questions. I wanted to try and keep the hot topic to something simple this week, something that I didn't think people would get really passionate about. So I went for a very, very simple question of the only hangover cure is sausage or bacon. Now, I didn't think that would elicit a lot of responses. We've had an unprecedented amount of responses to this week's hot topic. So 77% of the 150 plus votes
wow.
in the favour of bacon. as you would expect, and as I think is only right and true. However, a lot of love from people also suggesting Iron Brew should have been in this week's poll. And just a few people, I'm going to mention them. These are the Iron Brew gang. So Janice Dunn, Dennis Johnson, Clear Brew Glasgow, Pete McCary and Paul Grant, all very firmly coming out in favour of Iron Brew.
None of them surprised me.
No, absolutely not. Most all but Janice from Scotland. And even Janice wasn't straight up Iron Brew. There was vodka in it as well, as you would expect from one of the Irish machines. But a few other comments that came in. So Matt Chinnery at the Half Pint Gent went off completely on his own tangent and started talking about watermelon and loads of it. Apparently it single-handedly kept him alive when he was in Lithuania. Hopzine, Rob, who we had on a few weeks ago, personally his view is more beer is the most effective hangover cure. Clayfish, minimum is a bacon roll. Bacon and egg preferred, then all variations until full English, dependent on the severity of the hangover cure. Now that's a man that's put a lot of thought into his hangover cures. Leanne Gert, I defo love a sausage sarnie over bacon, but when you're hanging, I think the natural human response is to crave bacon. And then finally on this one, Nick from at Nicky Quote, I'm all for crispy bacon, but an unexpectedly overdone bit of bacon fat can be disastrous in that context. So very much the bacon crew coming out this week. Mate, sausage or bacon? What's the only hangover cure for you?
Well, first of all, boys and girls, you want to have a nice pint of water before you go to bed to ensure you're not dehydrated in the morning.
You're far too sensible, mate. Far too sensible.
Out of those two options, I would have to go for bacon. But I found, personally, what really helped me after a big night out were... There used to be this cafe near here. It's closed down now, unfortunately, called Purple in Streatham. And they used to do these blueberry waffles with compote and ice cream and stuff on it. And having that in the morning when you've been out on the drink all night, and this is usually after we've been out until 4 or 5 in the morning, crawl up there at 9, get that in you, sorted, solved.
That sorts you out, does it? or used to sort you out, yeah.
Failing that, bacon.
But
bacon
yeah,
or bacon.
It's all about the bacon. There's no point. Everybody knows that I'm an absolute bacon fiend, and everybody can tell when I've been out on a session because my morning tweets normally consist of the words bacon and get me to it as quick as possible. A bit of fun with Hot Topic this week, I think, because of the interview that we've got coming up at the end. I didn't want it to take up too much of tonight's show, but thanks everyone for getting involved. There'll be another Hot Topic along next week for you to get involved with. Use the hashtag Hot Topic and make sure you get involved in the poll as well, because that's normally what helps it out for us. Just putting a bit of a legitimacy to our views at the end of the evening.
Right, any final comments about Custard Porter from Cloudwater and Brouwerij Kees?
I am still loving it. I have now convinced myself that I am drinking liquid custard creams. Again, I think that's just the power of suggestion working. It's aroma-wise, it's now almost descended into this kind of malty barrel-aged beast, which is strange again because there's no barrel aging going on in it. I'm getting a little bit of the vanilla. The booziness is probably more prominent now. There's only a little bit left in the bottom of the glass, and it's nice and warm. But it's so drinkable. I mean, for 8.5%, just too drinkable. But so good.
Yeah, for me, a great little beer. If it was slightly less boozy, I'd be happier with it. But if it was slightly less boozy, I probably would drink it faster, which is at 8.5% is not ideal, really. Otherwise, it's a smashing little beer. They've done really well. Good on you. Cloudwater and Kees should do this for a living, really.
I think they should, yeah. Maybe start a brewery, do some seasonal beer, and be all over Twitter. I think that's the recipe to success, isn't it?
Many thanks to Beautiful Beers for providing the season 9 box of beers for our Belgian season this season, and get that from our beer show list on the website. Along with a discount code for Beautiful Beers and discount codes from Ales by Mail, Beer Merchants and Ebria, who all offer a 10% discount to Beer O'Clock Show listeners on any beers from their range. Coming up next week, we have the Tongalo Blonde from the Hacked Brewery. What style is that? It's just a blonde, isn't it?
I think it's just a blonde. We're back to Belgium,
Belgium.
again next week. We've not got many left now. We've only got 3 more Belgian beers, so we're halfway through.
Yeah.
The Belgian run. We've got this, and then we're finishing with 2 absolute classics from Belgium.
Cool. And don't forget to wait around after the tinkly music for Steve's interview with Matt from BeerBods, featuring all the questions from you folk. Right. Until next week, buddy.
It's been the highlight of my week.
And mine. Bye-bye.
It's BeerBods o'clock, and I'm with Matt from BeerBods. Matt, welcome to the Beer O'Clock Show.
Thanks for having me on. Absolute pleasure.
A long overdue interview, which we're really pleased to be featuring. In a slight twist from our normal interviews, I'm not going to ask you the standard questions, because I don't think anybody needs to hear the BeerBods origin story. And I think you were telling me you're pretty much fed up telling it by now, aren't you?
I think everyone knows about it starting in a shed, so we'll leave it today.
Okay, so instead what we've done is we've taken to Twitter, and we've asked some of our listeners, some of the guys that subscribe to BeerBods, to throw in some questions to ask you. So I'm just going to read those out.
Great stuff.
And we'll just go from there.
Yeah,
so
great.
First up, Martin Oates wants to know, what's your plans to re-engage with the online community on Thursdays? In his opinion, there's been a noticeable decline in the chat over the last 6 months.
Yeah. So we've really seen the way in which people use Twitter change since we started BeerBods. So when we first launched, Twitter was the only thing we used. We've increasingly sort of been going on to other things like Facebook and Instagram, and I think that's why Twitter's been diluted. And I don't think that's just us. I think people just generally use Twitter less now. So we're finding new ways of engaging with people online, including our website. So our website now is a live tasting area, and I think that's the thing we really want to evolve over the coming year, a space for people to communicate with each other on our site and not have to rely on things like Twitter, you know.
So, and with that space on your site, so is somebody going to moderate that in terms of the chat that's coming in and out?
Yeah, there's always an element of moderation. I mean, partly because of spam as much as anything else. I think anybody who is part of BeerBods knows that we don't edit out the bad stuff. You know, part of a good debate around beer is people being critical about it, people having misgivings about stuff, and we absolutely see that as vital part of a conversation about beer. So yeah, we edit it, but really it's just to get out stuff that shouldn't be there rather than just negative stuff, you know.
And this is a follow-up from me, so no one's asked this one. Thursday nights must be quite hard work. I mean, I've posted a couple of Twitter tastings online and a few things, and it's hard work keeping it up with it all, isn't it?
Increasingly, it takes 2 of us now, fully on it on a Thursday night at 9, usually myself and Gordon. And yeah, even that's getting more difficult. And like I said, because it's now not just on Twitter, that's becoming pretty tough. So I think we'll just keep getting more people. It's such an important part of BeerBods. Like, we don't mind like committing resources, whether that's us or other people helping us to getting it done. But yeah, it isn't easy. It's getting harder. Nice problem to have, though.
I bet it is, because it must be a nice reward for you guys to see people chatting about the beers and getting involved in those conversations every week.
Yeah, completely. And that's always what BeerBods has been about. You know, so.
Okay, David Martin wants to know, when can we have more BeerBods face-to-face action?
Good question. So this is probably an exclusive, which I guess you want a few of those, don't you?
Throw them in. Let's have them all.
So next BeerBods Live will be at Small Bar in Bristol in April. Okay. Beginning of April, we think. Just got to confirm a date with those guys, and then sort of May time we're expecting to have our next one in London. So yeah, it's definitely something we want to do more of this year, like getting people together. You know, communities online are great, but actually like seeing the whites in people's eyes, having a good crack with them over a pint is nothing quite like that. So definitely want to do more of those this year, but Bristol and London are next 2.
And I know in the past when you've done those face-to-face, you've kind of brought along some exclusive beers. So is there more of that in the pipeline? So
Bristol, we've got some fun ideas with a few brewers and having a bit of a battle on the night. So we definitely want to try and get a beer launched on the night, but also a bit of interaction with the brewers that you probably wouldn't get anywhere else as well.
Okay. A few people asking questions about favourite beers, that sort of thing. So Mark Scanlon wants to know, Desert Island beer, if you could only drink one, for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, crikey.
It's an awful question, isn't it?
No, it's always difficult one sometimes. I'd say for me, it's probably Orval. I think partly because it was one of the first Belgian beers I fell in love with, partly because the way it evolves over time. It's never the same beer actually. Whenever I've tried it, in all the time I've loved it, it's always different based on how old it is, where you're drinking it, temperature, and I love that in a beer. It's when you go, every time you go to it, you see something different. So Orval, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Alan Pearce wants to know where you get the time and energy from to track down all the beers.
That's the easy bit, yeah. And it's funny though, because people ask me like, how do you find them all? And in the early days of BeerBods, I remember having to bang breweries' doors down to get them to give us beers. Like, we were asking for 200, 300 bottles, and they didn't know what BeerBods was and what it was about and the value in it, and I was begging them to give me their beer. Now it's slightly different, and we're often having our door knocked down by breweries coming to us wanting their beers featured. So finding new beers has got a lot easier, and one of the things we do is try and get our subscribers to recommend beers. I mean, I don't know if you know, but if you're a subscriber and you recommend a beer and we feature it, we give you a free case of it.
Oh wow.
So we're doing loads more of that, and finding beers is the fun bit. I love it.
Okay, and he's got a couple of follow-ups as well.
Cool.
What's the buy to reject ratio?
Oh, great question. We reject so much beer. Yeah,
really?
Increasingly we get sent a lot of beer, particularly by new breweries actually, who just aren't quite ready for it yet. And there's sort of consistency and quality problems, and we're clearly buying quite a lot of beer from breweries, so it's quite often not from one batch even. So knowing that it's going to be consistent and good quality is so important to us. And we reject a lot at the moment. I'd say of all the beers we're sent as samples, I'd say at best it's 1 in 10 we accept. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And without naming it, have you ever put one in a box that you regret putting in there?
I think we featured a beer by, I don't mind naming it, by Bath Ales. We featured a couple of their beers, but one went down well, one didn't. The ginger one, the one with ginger hair, I think it was called.
Oh, I remember listening to Stephen Rowland.
Yeah, we got a bit of stick for that. Yeah. Stephen Rowland particularly didn't like it. So, yeah, I think it's probably 1 out of 200 odd.
Okay.
Not bad, really.
No, it's not a bad ratio at all. So again, around that same sort of theme, Miles Lambert, who's our number one fan on the show, regularly contributes to what we do. And
I know Miles.
He's always involved on a Thursday night. Wants to know if you keep a log of styles and the responses you get for certain styles of beer.
Yeah, no, we don't really keep a log as such, but we get a feel for it, and so. We try and make it seasonal, so obviously certain styles lend themselves to certain times of the year, and certain styles are better. We get better feedback at certain times of the year. So if we featured a lager in November, we'd probably get a better feedback for it if we featured it in April. Exactly the same beer, just the time of year will determine what people think of it. And there are beer styles that we want to feature more of that we think are people ready for it. Yeah, so great example of that is the Amarillo Sour that I just tried by Chorlton. Absolutely love it, amazing beer. Are our subscribers all ready for it yet? I don't know. So we're kind of going to try and ease them in with sours.
Okay. Miles also wants to know if there's any beer in the world that you could include in a box, what would it be?
Oh, crikey. I think I would love to have Bearded Lady in, and that's actually doable. What else would I love to have? I had the Lindemans Cuvée Rennais. That'd be pretty good as well. That'd be pretty special.
Okay. And last one from Miles. Where do you see BeerBods in 5 years' time?
Oh, crikey. So we want to become the leading independent retailer of bottled beer in the country, which is I don't think we're a million miles from that. There are some great other online retailers out there, but I think we're doing something unique and special, and I think in 5 years' time I think we want to be the trusted source of beer online, really.
Okay. I'm going to jump in at that point with two questions that I've got, which both link to the last answer that you gave. So firstly, in terms of you say what you offer is something special and something different. I wholeheartedly agree. You were one of the first kind of subscription membership services.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the imitators that are out there?
Yeah, so I counted that since we launched in September 2012, and we were the first beer subscription service. You couldn't subscribe on a recurring basis to any other beer club, and I still honestly believe we're still the only beer club really in its true sense. So if you think about what the word club means, it's really shared experience, really. And I think we're the only ones that offer that. You know, by putting the same beer in people's hands at the same time, coming together to talk about it. I think that marks us out as a club, and others claim to be clubs, but I'm not sure actually. They are sending you regular beers and post doesn't make it a club.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we watch with interest. I think there were 15 other beer subscription services launched since we did in September 2012, which is, you know, it's great because it means that more people are drinking Ace beer. It pushes us on to be better. Some are better than others. You know, some I really admire. They've done something different and really add to the party, like Honest Brew, for example. Big fan of theirs. Ebria, big fan of theirs. They're doing something different. Others less so, you know, and you know they've identified a gap in the market, and I'm not sure they're that passionate about beer, but they want a piece of the pie, and you know, I think some will do all right, and others are already starting to drop away. We don't worry ourselves too much because I think we genuinely are doing something different, and we genuinely do love beer, and we're in it for the long haul. So we know people are going to come in, they're going to go, and we're happy with where we're at, really. Okay.
And imitation's one of the best forms of
flattery,
so
they
right?
say. Yeah.
And the second question that I have, again linked to your previous answer about you being wanting to be the most recognised online independent retailer. Yeah. In this last couple of weeks, we heard the news that Beerhawk have essentially been taken over by AB InBev. Yes. What are your thoughts on that as an independent online retailer?
Yeah, I think Beerhawk weren't really a retailer that we were sitting up and worrying about at night anyway. I think they probably fall into the camp as a retailer that's not really doing anything too innovative or special. The fact that they've teamed up with AB InBev, I think, is worrying for the wider industry because, you know, it shows that AB InBev aren't just wrapping up the production side of beer, they're wrapping up the routes to market as well, which I think everybody should be alarmed about, really, particularly brewers and of course drinkers. I mean, this comes back to your last question, really. There are loads of people who've come into this space in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of them have identified an opportunity to make a quick buck, and it looks like Beerhawk might have done that, they might not, you don't know the details, but good luck to them. I mean, I don't think many people in this industry will be losing a sleep about it, really.
Okay. Let's get back to the listener questions then. So this next one's anonymous. Do all the beer you supply to your subscribers, is any of that provided to you free of charge, or do you buy all of the beers that you give to your subscribers?
Yeah, so we're really proud to pay a fair rate for every single beer we've ever featured. We've been offered free beer in the past. We've rejected it. We've seen that same free beer turn up in other retailers' boxes, but we're not going to move on that. You know, as soon as we start accepting free beer, I think it's a slippery slope. We're not going to sell out. I think that's one way of selling out, and we're just not going to do it.
Okay. Michael Lally wants to know, how do you organise it so that everybody has the same beers every week, regardless of when they start their subscription?
Oh, crikey. It's too boring to explain how. It'll take me too long. I mean, it's deceptively simple bit of warehouse management, really. And it's kind of like our secret sauce as well, you know, making sure everybody's got the same beer at the same time, regardless of when you get your box. Yeah. It's not as complicated as you think it is, but it's too boring to go into details.
Okay.
How we do it.
So almost along the similar sort of lines then, Beer Newbie wants to know, how does the selection process work for picking the beers?
Oh, crikey, yeah, great question. So there are loads of criteria that we consider, and it's obviously a movable feast. So firstly, it needs to be good beer, and that sounds like really basic, but what I mean by that is good quality. So beer is so subjective, obviously. Whether people like it or not is one thing, but whether it's good quality is actually fairly objective. Is it technically good? Is it consistent? Are two people drinking the same beer going to get the same thing? That's something that's really important to us. So making sure it's good quality, good sort of quality control at the brewery is the first box they've got to tick. Secondly, we need to sort of know that this is beer made by people who care about it, and that doesn't mean they have to be really small. We've featured beers from Adnams, Hook Norton, great British institutions, but you always can get to the people that make it and speak to them about it and ask them why it was they did something to a beer. And I think that's the important thing for us. Like Garrett Oliver says that craft is when you know the name of the brewer. I really like that. For us, it's kind of similar. If we can speak to a brewer about a beer, then it's likely it's good enough to feature. And then of course we have price points. So BeerBods, we've got a fixed, for the normal subscription service, we've got a fixed price point of £3. So like that limits the amount of beers we can choose. We've still got a lot to choose from, but whilst we'd love to feature a 750ml bottle of Bearded Lady, we can't do it in our normal subscription service. We've got a couple of new things launching this year, which means that we can get those more special beers, but at the moment in our normal subscription service we can't do it. And then seasonality is a massive thing, getting the right types of beer at the right times. Size of brewers, we don't want to have loads of large brewers in a row. We don't want to have loads of one-man bands in a row. So getting that mix. So loads of things go into the equation when we're picking our beers, but they're just some of them.
Okay. Clayton Chisholm, who's I think he's one of the guys. He's been with you almost from the beginning.
I know Clayton,
as an A. He wants to know what's the ratio between beery fun, warehouse management, and actual business.
I don't know. I think it's all just one big melee of those things.
Okay.
I don't think we divide it up. We've got a warehouse and an office in an old pig farm in Worcestershire. There's 5 of us there. 3 of us full time, a couple part time, and we have a great time. We really do. It's tough as well. We are running a business that we're trying to grow, and getting that balance right is sometimes tough, but we love it.
And he's got a follow-up question as well. He also wants to know why there's so little Essex beer featured on
question.
BeerBods.
So we're really keen to feature more beer from Essex. We've spoken to some Essex brewers previously about, who is it you were saying? Brentwood Brewing. Yeah. So we've spoken to them previously. So it's just about, because we've got to the size we have, so we've got about 3,000 subscribers today, getting a box of 12 beers in the post. Some of the smaller brewers, they need quite a lot of notice to do that sort of quantity all at the same time. So something we're working on. But if anybody knows any Essex brewers who should be featured, we want to know about it. And I mentioned this just before I came on, Steve, that if one of our subscribers recommends a beer and we end up featuring it, we give them a free case. So hopefully that's a good incentive for people to recommend good Essex brewers and beers.
Okay, well there's a call to action for one of our listeners. Justin Mason, if you're listening, mate, you want to be all over that one.
Exactly.
Okay, so to finish on, I've got 2 questions from one person. So this is from the bearded one. Wants to know, firstly, with the excitement around all of the New Zealand beers that are appearing in the UK right now, are there any plans for a New Zealand BeerBods box?
Yeah, interesting. So I've got sort of mixed feelings on Kiwi beers, because I've had some and they've been really good. So I've had 8 Wired and Tuatara. Some of them are amazing, but they're all really, really damn expensive. And I suppose there's this issue of are there beers coming from New Zealand that are truly different or better than we could get here or the US at a lot better price point? And if they're no different and they're a lot more expensive, what value are they adding? I don't know. So I've kind of got a few question marks over that. And we can do a New Zealand case, but it'll be really expensive. And will the quality of the beers justify that? Or like I said, could you just get those beers in the States and the UK? So I think at the moment buying beers from New Zealand is quite tough, and offering them to our customers at a decent price point is even harder. So
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay. And then final question: what lovely new beers do you have coming up soon?
Oh, crikey. So we've got this week's beer is Delta by Beer Project Brussels. We've got Raw by More Beer Company, which I'm really excited about. It's like their version of a Best Bitter, which doesn't really resemble anything like a Best Bitter. It's really good. Yeah, we've got some really good. We've got a real classic in Titanic's Plum Porter, which in our neck of the woods in the West Midlands is a really highly thought of beer. Yeah, we've got some great ones coming up, and I honestly think like the beers that we're featuring are getting better and better. The great thing about us growing is like the price we can buy beer at keeps improving at scale. So I think the beers, like the next 12 beers, like I'm not just saying this, I genuinely think are the best we've ever done, and I'd like to think that will continue really.
Okay. Where do people find out more if they don't already know where they can find you guys?
So beerbods.co.uk, and if you subscribe and use the discount code Beer O'Clock Show, we'll give you your first couple of beers free as well.
Oh, okay, brilliant!
Yeah.
Another exclusive.
Yeah,
right there that
yeah.
I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Matt, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Really chuffed to come on.
Cheers,
Steve. Thanks, mate.